Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of the Regal Podcast with me, Jordan Lewis, and my good friend Harry Cuttress. Today, we are joined by none other than Mr. Ron Mourra, who is a fitness coach and also a business coach. So, Ron, first of all, do you want to say hi to our viewers and also give a bit of a rundown as to who you are, what you do?
All right. Well, welcome. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. I'm Ron Mourra. I live in Canada. I live an hour away from Toronto, a small town, Brantford, Ontario, home of Wayne Gretzky. So for any hockey fans out there, I am a dad. I'm a husband. I've got two young kids, a 5-year-old Nova and a 3-year-old Bennett. And I've got two businesses, and that is kind of the rundown. I'm sure we're going to run into the more details, but that's kind of the short and sweet of it.
Mhm. So you obviously said you've got two businesses. Now, I know that one of those is the fitness coaching business. Would you like to kind of give a bit more detail behind both of those businesses?
Absolutely. From the fitness side, growing up, I was really skinny. They had a nickname for me. They called me Scrawny Ronnie. So most people know me as Ron, but I actually have a Y at the end of it. And everyone called me Roni because I used to live in the Middle East. If we take a step back, I lived in Kuwait. I was born there. My dad was an engineer until the Gulf War in 90. So up until 10 years old, I had an idyllic childhood, hanging out with my cousins. It was pretty laid back. Then when the war happened, we needed to, go somewhere. And Canada was our permanent home from there, but we moved to the US. We moved to Jordan for a time being in order to leave the Gulf War during that time. So I was a skinny, awkward kid and always getting picked on. So when I came to Canada, people didn't know how to pronounce my name. So when we did the translation on my birth certificate, because originally it's actually Rany, Middle Eastern, but it's pronounced Ronnie. So people would call me Rainy. So I said, no, it's Ronnie. So I changed it legally to an O. Here I am. Like my mom actually did that because she knew it was bothering me.
Yeah.
And then they started calling me, okay, it's not Roni. It's Ronnie. Okay, now you're going to be known as Scrawny Ronnie. So picked on. I was really skinny. And I remember high school, I was an awkward kid. So I lifted weights. And that first, I had a mentor who was a police officer in Canada. I'm not sure how it is in the UK, but each school has, a police officer present, kind of just more of a mentor to everyone. He's in the hallways. We go to basketball games. Officer Rudy, I still remember him. He was jacked. He was kind of like the Hercules back in the day. And I wanted to look like him. He was a confident guy and he put in his time. So he taught me how to lift weights the right way. And I fell in love with it at the young age of 14. And then after that, I went to university. I made a career out of it because I always wanted to help people transform their bodies because I saw the impact away from just the physical changes, my confidence. I just started to see improvements in other areas of my life because of the discipline. So I wanted to teach that. So I've been in the industry for 20 years. Ever since I was 19 years old, I got my certification. And even while I was at university, I would do PT. And early on in career, most people who become trainers want to own their own gym until they own the gym and realize, oh my goodness, I just want to be a freelancer. This is way too hard. And it was a struggle business wise. So, and I was single at the time. And the reason, every relationship I would have, I would work so much, and the hours of personal training people want to see in the morning and the evenings, it was not conducive to any relationship. So I had to make a change, and I knew I wanted to go online. So that's when, I hired Craig, who is my business coach now. He's been my mentor for 3 years, helped me move my business online. I'm still making a great impact helping people. I've got a fitness app. And that is my journey in the fitness industry. It's always going to be a big part of me. I love helping people, and I love this medium of online because COVID accelerated. I was already established online, so knock on wood, I was very blessed to have kind of a small stake in, in that industry. And I'm working with people remotely, majority of them in North America for the fitness side. And it's so rewarding because I have kids. I can still spend time with my kids, make an impact because I love to work. I want to help people. So it's been an amazing journey with lots of ups and downs. Maybe we'll get into that today. But yeah, that's the fitness career. So it'll always be a part of me.
Fantastic. I know with your fitness business, you tend to target your marketing and what you do more towards parents trying to sort of stay fit. What made you kind of want to work more with parents specifically?
Yeah, that's a good question. I was the type, when you become a trainer, you want to help everyone. So I wanted to train athletes, and then I wanted to train older people, and then I want to train, and I never really had a niche. So my voice wasn't heard. Locally, I had a good because I can help people, and I was yeah, jack of all trades, master of none, until I realized I've got to specialize. And what better niche to work with? I know the struggles of having young kids and being able to fit in work and working out. And when I started to work with Craig, I realized that you want to be a specialist versus a generalist. Like you know, if you're going to get shoulder surgery, you're not going to see your GP. You want to see the guy who just focuses on shoulders. So people know me as the guy who helps busy parents, and my strategies, people have to buy in. I remember Craig has taught me this early on, that whatever product you have, it has to solve a problem in a way that your prospects will buy in. So I don't preach the fitness. I don't tell them they have to work out every day, because they won't, because it's not a reality based on where they are. I'm just getting them small wins, and I get them to focus on nutrition, and I can let them have pizza and beer if they want to as well. So it's easy for me to get my clients to buy in, and I can stand out amongst the noise, and my followers are just parents. So if there's a high school kid following me, it's probably not, because my message is going to be too boring for him. But parents generally connect with me, and I've got messages. They're like, wow, it's like you're entering my mind. How did you know I was thinking of that? And that's something Craig told me: enter the conversation of the prospect's mind. So I honed in on that parent, and I've got my avatar. I know what house they live in. I know how many kids. I know what cars in the driveway. And I just focus on entering the conversation of that prospect each and every day. So.
Hmm. Sounds fantastic. And I've had similar experiences through Craig's mentoring as well. One thing I'm kind of curious then, obviously, you've mentioned Craig Ballantyne a few times, with his mentoring, his coaching, helping you. How did you actually sort of get involved with Craig in the first place?
Great question. So Craig is from Canada. He lived in Toronto. Now he's out west, still in Canada. But he built a product back in the day in the fitness industry when ebooks like Turbulence Training. It was still relatively new online training in early 2000. So I knew of the name. He went to university, kind of a rivalry university, went to McMaster. So actually, one of my friends used to work with him for the Turbulence Training. Early on in my mentorship and personal training, I would fly out to California to see Bedros Keuilian, and he helped me build my gym when I had a gym back in the day. And Craig was a presenter. And I always loved his presentations and the way he approached his business and life. He was not flashy. He doesn't drive the fancy cars. And his values and vision really resonated with me. So we had not been in touch at that time. He probably wasn't aware who I was, but I would follow him in the background. And when I finally got an iPhone, when I was like 35 or 36, I'm a big BlackBerry guy. So BlackBerry in Waterloo is an hour away, a town. That's where they had a big hub there. So it's a Canadian company, where Rim Park was, where they had the BlackBerry. So I had every single BlackBerry. So I didn't really have Instagram. I built up a following because of my Facebook, and there was Facebook owns Instagram. So I probably had 300 followers, but it wasn't until I got my iPhone. I'm like, I love the iPhone. And then I got hooked on Instagram, and then Mr. Valentine showed up and said, hey, do you want to run an online business? And this is how you do it. I saw a testimonial. Here's the irony of someone named Wayne Sutherland. The irony is Wayne Sutherland he's in business in town. He owned a gym. We're not rivals. We're good friends. And he got mentoring from him. And I called up Wayne. I'm like, is this true? Like, did you go online? Because he stepped away from his lease that he had a couple months left with, and he fully went online. He said, yeah, Craig helped me. So I'm like, I called up Craig. Well, I didn't call it Craig, set up a time, and I said, I want in. If Wayne can do it, I know I can do it. But it was nice to see someone in my town get the results. And from there, my life changed. I pushed more to online, and the value of the coaching and mentorship. I just wanted to get out of debt, because that was a big problem that I need to solve at that time. I was $70K in debt, and I had kids daycare, double daycare, which is $2,000 each and every month, $20K a year. I needed to solve that problem. in a way that I wanted to. And I didn't want to do more personal training. So here he goes. I went to Craig and he had the perfect solution. And then I kept on getting mentorship with him. And then now I have a small role in his organization that I'm very blessed with, because it's another aspect of my business, but it serves the same mission, helping others, solving a problem, whether it's giving them freedom or helping them make money on their terms.
So how did you make that transition then from, I know you're still being mentored by Craig, but how did you make that transition from pure mentee, to you're now mentoring other people as well?
That's a great question. I never in my wildest imagination, I mean, online, I don't really position myself as a business coach. I mean, I've been an entrepreneur for 20 years, and I've been in different conferences. I remember once, because Craig was kind of a bit removed from the personal training days, he had two clients that were struggling. And he saw my success in my first year of mentorship. He's like, hey, Ron, like I filled out an accountability email. For those who are part of Craig's program, there's an accountability each week. And he asked me, he said, Ron, I wonder if you could do me a favor. I said, if Craig tells me, John, I'll say how high. Like, he had a huge impact in a short amount of time. I want to help him out. He said, I've got a couple of people. Do you mind jumping on a call? Never in my wildest imagination, I didn't ask for it. I said, yeah, I'll do it for free. So I jumped on 2 calls for free with his clients, and I helped them get quick wins. And then Craig was like, hey, do you want to coach some of my students? And I'm like, yeah, because I love it. I mean, I'm still in the trenches and I'm teaching them things that I'm testing out. So it was a nice, there was some synergy there. And then the opportunity came. I remember when he was helping me improve my close rate, because anytime I would get on a call early on, I didn't have a good script and I wasn't very good at sales, because all I was doing was coaching versus, finding out more about the prospect. So I studied training he gave me, and he realized, like, this guy's obsessed. Like, every time I give him something, he just studies. He's like, do you want to do some calls for me? I'm like, absolutely. I'm not going to say no. And then I just, I showed up, he gave me an opportunity and I didn't expect anything out of it. And then from there, the responsibilities, now I'm his program director. I coach his students as well, and I do calls for him. So, and a lot of probably half of my clientele are fitness clients. So I love the idea of serving other people and helping their mission. And although I'm not helping their clients directly, like the coaching clients I have, if for those in the fitness industry, if they're getting clients and they're servicing them, then I'm kind of making the world a bit healthier place. So I love that. Like, I have to be part of a mission, whatever it is. And it's got to be able to serve other people, help people. Otherwise, I don't want to be a part of it, because life's short and you want to make as much of an impact as possible. And then the income will come, right? But I don't really focus on the income. But the first time in my life when I focus less on it, I find that there's abundance there because I have better intentions versus before when I was younger.
Yeah, definitely. I know that quite a few entrepreneurs have found a similar thing. Like, if you spend your life chasing money and that's why you're running a business, you won't get it at the end of the day, or you're very unlikely to get it anyway, or you'll always be unhappy. So
that's right.
Yeah. Is that a mindset?
I think you become very short-sighted in terms of your mindset. You start focusing on, can I make $500 today off this person, instead of thinking, well, if I give you value in advance and I keep you as a client long-term with great customer service, great results, I'll have you potentially, say, for 10 years at, let's say, $200 a month. That's worth way more than £500 short-term.
Oh, 100%. Retention is huge, and it's so important. And at the end of the day, the kids, like when I used to do calls for Craig, I want to make sure I carve out time for that. And my kids don't care if I close the package and made commission. Like, so the ones that you love the most, I just found, like, I'm their dad. Like, it doesn't matter if I sold this, it doesn't matter. All they want is my time. So that's what I'm like, they don't care. I mean, obviously money, it solves problems, but definitely, it doesn't, you got to work on yourself and figure out what are your motives. And mine were, when I was younger, I wanted to drive the fancy car. I wanted to live in a mansion because I bought into that, the hustle, the entrepreneurship, back in the day, following people, you got to grind. So Craig's message was totally different. And he lives his way he lives his life that way. It's more experiences. I don't think he has like a fancy home. I don't think he drives a car. But if you want a fancy home, that's great. I'm not saying there's anything against it. But for me, it's like, I want to live below my means and if I make more, it's not going to make me happier, or it's not going to affect, as long as I know my non-negotiables, which is my kids, my family, and my relationships with the people I love. And that's what Craig helped me with, because that was where I was out of alignment. He helped me schedule those most important things first and then work after. So I'm building a business around my life, not what I used to do before, which was before my life was the business. That's it. I didn't have time for anyone else. So
if you had to break down a day before meeting Craig, before he helped you out with this, and a day now where you kind of putting those non-negotiables in place, what would they kind of look like?
Before, I was the guy that's always busy, you know, like my wife would say, no, I'm busy. I would be always working on items that don't move the needle forward, that could have been delegated, but I was just doing it to stay busy, and it wasn't productive, and it really didn't. It just ate up a lot of my time. So I had that badge of honor. Yeah, definitely. I'm going to grind. I'm going to wake up early. I'm going to work. But that just led to burnout. So that's a big shift there for me, where I have to look at each task that I'm doing. If I commit to something, it's going to take something. I'm missing out on something else. So I'm learning to say no. Like this podcast, perfect. I'm proud of your progress in the that you've made, and you reached out to me. So I'm going to honor this time together. But it wouldn't have worked if it was, you know, if I had the opportunity to hang out with my kids. Like, nothing against you and Harry, but so I have those non-negotiables. I make time for people that I want to help, or give them time, like we're doing now. But I know, like, there's some non-negotiables. So I hang out with my kids 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours at night, and nothing's going to get in the way of that. So yeah, it's when you know you let your values and vision drive every decision. And when you learn to say no, that was a game changer for me, because I had Idea Fairy, you know, after Idea Fairy, and people wanting to meet for lunch to talk about this. Well, I don't have lunch. I like to have lunch alone, phone free. You know, I find that more valuable than, you know, having a networking meeting per se locally, which does, for me, it doesn't work, because different businesses, and it's not aligned with my vision anymore.
Okay, yeah, interesting then. So you put your non-negotiables into your schedule, but like first, and you kind of don't move those for anything.
Yeah, absolutely. So I would even schedule in, you know, like I've got, you know, when I go to bed, when I wake up, family time, like who's taking care of the kids in the morning. I've got young kids, 2 under 5. So my wife will sleep in a bit, who's taking them to school. And then when I hang out with them, now we can't do date night as much because we're locked in, but when things go back to normal, it'll be like Thursday date nights with my wife. And then when the golf season, I've got golf, because I love golf. I don't want to be one dimensional. I want to have a sport that allows me to be outdoors, that challenges me away from work, because I can work all the time because I love it, but I want to learn new skills. So yeah, non-negotiables first, you put them in there. It's usually family or friend related. And then you put into, then you work on your most important task in the morning. And most people, it's a sales driven task. That is a money later task. I think where I was stuck was in the morning when I would wake up, I would just focus on money maintenance. So I would coach people in the morning. When I went online, that is the first year, I was spending way too much time servicing the clients that I had. And Craig was like, we've got to eat the frog first. What are you delaying? What I was delaying was my marketing strategy. What I was delaying was working on scripts back then. What I was delaying was having conversations. So we've got to do the money later task early. Now it will be different for everyone, but you've got to work on something that's going to move the needle forward, and stuff that you wouldn't get to the rest of the day, because you're going to get in the thick of things, right? Like you're going to be on a call, something happens. So there's going to be hiccups in a day, but as long nothing's going to touch my morning time, and I'm ahead of the game. By the time my kids are up, my fitness business work is pretty much done. And I love that, because then the rest of the day is things like this, or calls, or, you know, go out for a walk. And I do 4 walks a day. That's a non-negotiable too, because it makes me a better person and more present with my kids. So I don't, you know, it can help reduce stress.
Fantastic. So my question is then, obviously you've learned the skill of saying no, which I know that I've learned, a ton of entrepreneurs have learned, well, most successful entrepreneurs have learned anyway. How do you decide if you need to say no to something?
I would look at first what the opportunity is, how long it will, not only how long it will take, how long it will actually take. So for example, today was a perfect time, it'll be an hour, but there was some prep work ahead of time. Like if I was somewhere else, I anticipate it's going to be 2 hours of time. And then, I made a commitment to you, so I want to stick to that. And I value what you're doing because I love your work. I've seen some of your content. And I want to see if I can help you in any way. So I'm like, I like Jordan. He's a younger guy. I want to see if I can help him move forward. So it's a bit of like mentorship. If a younger person comes to me and asks me something, I'm more likely to do it, versus if they were older, because I think their intentions might be different, if that makes sense. Because I think the older you get, some people just want to do things because they're expecting something in return. So I always look at, is this in alignment with what I want to do? I'll make exceptions as well, because, once you've been mentored, what you gain, you want to pass it on to people who are open to it, of course. So it's tough, but it comes with time. But it's just evaluating each case and then understanding that whatever commitment it is, it's going to take, I add another hour to it just in case, because you could be doing something else. But
yeah, definitely. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So it's kind of just that experience that comes with, saying no. You learn what you do and don't want to do.
Yeah.
My question is then, I know you obviously schedule your time like we talked about. You've got your non-negotiables, which includes your children. How do you manage to do your fitness coaching and your coaching for Craig, and as well focus and look after your kids? Like, I know you have the schedule, but
yeah, that's great. I compartmentalize kind of my days. So in the morning, it's very methodical. I do the same thing 7 days a week. Saturday, Sunday, I still wake at the same time. I'll do the same stuff. So in the morning, when I wake up, I'll have a coffee. I'll have some music playing in the background. Like, it's more not music, YouTube videos, inspirational, like Eric Thomas or maybe Les Brown, just to listen. And every day I want to wake up and I want to feed my mind. So you should, stand guard the door of your mind and feed it something good, right? We always think nourishment with food, but our mindset, have a coffee, listen to that. And also the way they articulate their message. I love the delivery. So I'll take some quotes that I hear over and over again. Then I'll just set up shop. In 30 minutes, I'll focus on Craig's business first. I'll have my follow-ups. I pull up the pipe drive. I've got to do my the money later task. And then after that, I'll check in with my coaching clients another 30 minutes. I like to do Pomodoro, like 30-minute blocks, because if I give myself an hour, it'll take me an hour, right? That Parkinson's law, whatever time you allot for it, it's going to expand. So I'm like, I got to get this done. And I've learned to be able to put 2 tasks in there in the 30 minutes, but they're easier tasks to do. And it's just methodical. Then I do the coaching for Craig, 30 minutes, and then I'll coach some of my clients, just check in with them. And then before my kids are up, I've got to just switch the focus into dad mode. So I'll go for a walk, reset. And then once I hear my kids, their rooms are above here, I hear their footsteps, then it's like a different hat, right? I take off the, Ron, the whatever role I had to do before. It's like, now I'm dad. Phone stays here, and I've got to give them my full attention. And my cue to get me in a good state, I'll look at my daughter and I'll just give her a kiss. And I'll say, Nova, I love being your dad. And that, for me, saying that, it's like dad mode. And the same thing, Bennett, I just love being your dad. And then boom, then I'm a dad for those 2 hours. Now, there's going to be times in the past, or even sometimes I'm thinking, oh man, I want to get this done. I want to get this done. So I'll be distracted. I always remind myself, get back to where you are. You're going to have time for doing the other stuff. So by doing the things earlier in the morning, what I found, and also giving me a buffer later on in the day in case I needed a buffer to catch up, puts me at ease, because the urgency on certain tasks are more things that we put on ourselves. Like if I get an email, if I don't respond in like 2 hours, everything's going to be okay. But if I'm the type, no, I reply right away, then that person has the expectation that, wait a minute, he usually replies this time. So is everything okay? So I learned to manage other people's expectations. So if I have coaching, this is how it works. I've got office hours. So we never have a real-time conversation, because that's not how you run a true business, because you're going to be stuck messaging people. Yeah. And then it's just basically getting in the right state, having a little mantra or a phrase that gets you grounded. And I find that it's like when you hone in when you're with your kids, I don't know if you guys have kids yet, or, nieces or nephews, when you're present with your kids and they know that you've got it, it's like a feeling that there's that buzz that I never can replicate any other ways, right? Like I used to drink in the past, to relax, but that is like, for me, it's like the best. And even when my kids have temper tantrums, for me to stay in that and let them know, because they can't regulate their behavior, to let them know, yeah, I'm feeling it, I'm here, we're going to work this through. Versus if I had my phone, I would be distracted, and then I would just say, look, dude, I would raise my voice, right? So patience is so important, and that's something that I had to work on, and it's still a work in progress. But man, when you don't have your phone with you and when you're kids, it's like, it's on fire for me. It's like heaven. That is the best.
So just quickly then, this is why, Jordan, I keep talking about throwing this in
I
the
don't
river.
have kids.
Yeah.
Oh, go on.
Yeah. I've got a 5-month-old son. So
you have, sorry?
And 5-month-old son, Theodore.
5 months. Yes. Congratulations. Yeah. Now,
thank you.
You're in the early stages, so don't be
Yes.
hard on yourself. It's a very confusing time. Like, I didn't know. I'm like, what do? I don't get this little blob. Like, I can't do anything. And it looks at me. I can't talk to it. It's just that you're there, you're holding them. And, every year I've changed quite a bit. And once you get to that place and you're like, man, I don't rely on my phone anymore, this is a great feeling, because there's always anxiety for me. It's like, I've got to have this. When you learn to put bumpers and boundaries. So if I put this phone off and then I put it in, in a drawer, then I go in to hang out with the kids. So in the past, I would sneak in and then open the drawer. But because it was off, I'm like, oh, it's not worth it. It's like, you're just putting bumpers in place. And then the accountability. So with Coach Craig, I would share things and he would hold me accountable to those. But yeah, like, give yourself some grace, Harry, because parenting is very challenging. You're never going to be able to figure it out. It's always a work in progress. But I just want my kids to have an idyllic childhood like I did. My parents were always present, even though we had to leave because of a war. It was an adventure, and my dad always made it feel that way. So during COVID, we made it an adventure for my kids, and we were just blessed to be in a position, because although the whole world had to go in a storm, I heard a quote, right? Everyone had a different boat, and I was just lucky enough to be in a decent boat to stay, while the currents were there. We had a good foundation. Now, 5 years ago, if COVID hit, it would be we wouldn't be here. The gym I started would have been bankrupt. I probably would have had to file for bankruptcy, maybe even got a divorce, because the stressors of it would have accumulated. So I feel for people. It's very challenging. So, that's why I try to control what I can, cope with what I can, and just concentrate what matters. It's that Stoic philosophy, something that I'm a big fan of, that's helped me over the last 3 years as well.
Harry, do you have any questions specifically about parenting and how it can relate to running a business?
Not specifically. I'm going to take that into account, which is this switched off, thrown into a drawer, left in a completely other side of the house, and I want to try that out first, because it makes a lot of sense. I can see exactly what you're saying, and I think that's going to be revolutionary with regards to kind of how I get on with my son. So.
Yeah, what you have to realize too is there's a reason why I would go on my phone, because it's comfort. It's something I was good at. Like I'm good at work. That's what I know. Here you have a kid. I don't know what to do. When I'm stressed, I'm just going to go back to what I'm good at. So I think it's human nature. So for me to learn I'm like, man, this is going to be tough. It's a lifelong adventure. The more you talk with parents, you realize the ones I find when I was the most at peace and more still, like now as my kids grow up, I find they're not having as many temper tantrums. And I wonder early on, was that my fault? And, I think a lot of it was when I had my phone, I was distracted, not giving them attention. But keep in mind, kids are going to have temper tantrums. It made it worse. So just being aware, and, just taking things, step by step, just making progress, even though it's just 1% better. So, but yeah, it's a good feeling when you're not tied to the phone. But trust me, I get hooked because, like I said, I love to work, and that's how I stay busy. So that's why being outdoors, golfing, it forces you to do something different, and the world will still continue. Your clients aren't going to fire you if you have good systems, that is, and you set the expectations, because you will have clients that are not a good fit and you want to identify it early on. Like for me, I don't do Zoom calls with my clients. I don't do walkie-talkie service. That's what some trainers do. And it's just, you're trading time for money again, but in front of a computer instead of personal training, right? So it's even worse, I think. But so setting up the right business on your terms, which Craig, build that business around your life, not the other way around. So that was a big thing that stood out for me.
Yeah, definitely. You also touched on the fact that you're kind of embracing Stoicism and kind of implementing that in your life, especially when you're dealing with your children having temper tantrums. I'm kind of curious, how did you come on to the Stoic philosophy, and how have you kind of gone about implementing that?
Yeah, it's interesting. So before I actually signed up with Craig, he had a daily email. It was just quotes. And here I'd see like Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, and there's a lot of Stoicism. And then I would jump on, and I would remember like going on, listening to other podcasts in the past, and everyone just talks about Stoic philosophy, and then even athletes. So I bumped into Ryan Holiday somehow online, and I've been listening to the Daily Stoic every single day. It's a 1-minute message. And one of my walks, I'll listen to that. And it is like, his words that he's saying is like 2,000-year-old, and you realize they have the same problems as we do. Humans are humans, regardless of they had the Antonine plague, right? This, what we're experiencing in COVID, like this has happened centuries ago, thousands of years ago. And it lasted, the Antonine plague, I think 15 years. So I'm like, whoa, people have been through what we have. Obviously things have changed, mediums have changed, but what's the best way to cope through life? And because life, there's going to be a lot of struggle. Stoicism made sense for me. And those words that I hear, I want to take them into works. And then Ryan Holiday came up with a podcast, Daily Dad. So the lessons of the Stoicism and how to make you a better dad. So that's what I would do in my walks every single day. I really look forward to those doses of Stoicism. I love Ryan Holiday's work. And then I don't have the ring with me. I would buy memorabilia from him, right? Just because I would follow him so much. I'm like, man, it's free content. I've got to reciprocate. I got to do something. So I would buy things, and it was, I have a mentee mori ring, which is, that quote really hit me. Like, remember that you will die. So, keep that in mind in the way that you think, in the people in your lives, how you act and how you treat people, right? The mentee mori, like that is such a big, in Stoicism, like we're all going to die, right? Let that, drive you into your day-to-day, to help you be a better person, right? So yeah, it's through the journey, and then control what you can, cope with what you can't, concentrate on what matters, because there's a lot of things you can't cope with. Like there's things that are out of your control. You just have to learn to cope with it. Like what's going on in the world, politics, that's why I don't go into the Facebooks and the news and what's happening in the US. It's like, can't control that, right? You just got to cope with the things that, all you can do is, I always say, like, focus on your house, like clean your room, right? Take care of your kids. Those are things that even Dr. Jordan Peterson, who's been a big impact, he's Canadian, on my life too. So I would say Stoicism, Jordan Peterson, just especially for males, I found he's a great role model. A bit controversial, but I think it was blown out of proportion. I think he's just a great human being, and I love to listen to. He brings more Catholicism, like Christianity. So I like to bring both, because I was raised as a Catholic, and I'm still trying to figure it out, so I like Stoicism and I like Christianity. And I'm just on this journey, man. And we're all trying to cope and do the best we can, right? So we're all in this together, right? That's what I think people forget. And that's why we're so divided. But ultimately, most people want the same thing. They want shelter. They want friends. They want meaning, right? It just gets confused when you have different ideologies. So.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of an important thing. We are all human. We should all kind of work together, basically.
Yeah.
And also, just so you're aware as well, Harry and I, big fans of Jordan Peterson's work. We've recently got his new book that released. When was it? Was it the 2nd of March?
2nd of March.
It came out.
Oh.
Yeah.
So you have the 12 rules, though, right? Did you read the 12 rules?
The first book as well. Yeah.
Yeah,
I was
like
going to get it
those
out,
things,
but
like,
it's in my room.
what
Go
was your best one? What was your best rule? I wonder. Like, I haven't finished the book, but was there one that you took? Like, because for me, it was, I think, pet a cat if you had a chance. And I have a cat, and I look at my cat differently now, right? It's like those little things that will show up in your day that, like, it'll just make you see things in a different way. I never thought like petting my cat, because it's my wife's cat, but I'm like, man, just sitting there, I'm like, this is pretty good, right? Like, what would yours be? I wonder, Jordan.
George,
You want to go first, Harry, or do you want me to go?
you go for a minute.
All right, cool. So for me, it was definitely the clean your room, because I mean, at that point,
Yes.
I literally had a messy room for one, and I was kind of trying to give people advice on their own life, but realistically, was I living up to that advice myself? No.
Yeah.
So then it was kind of, well, first of all, I need to literally clean my room because it is a state. And secondly, it was then a case of, well, if my life isn't in order, or if I'm not at least acting on the advice I'm giving and sort of putting my own life in order, I have no right to then, I don't have any right to tell other people or suggest to people what they should do. And equally, I'm wasting my time doing that, because that time would be better spent on my own life. Firstly, getting my room organized, then my house, then getting a family organized. And then you can look to those wider issues.
That's true. I love that. Yeah.
As I said, it's a fantastic rule. For me, it was treat every conversation like somebody has something to teach you.
Yes.
Just really simply put. And I certainly, Jordan, kind of, you've known me a few years, so you kind of know how I was a couple of years ago. But I certainly, when I first got into coaching, I quite quickly built a reputation in my industry as knowing what I'm talking about. And I'm only 20, I'll be 24 later this year. So at very young, I was kind of put on a pedestal. So I started kind of falling into the arrogance and the hubris of, I know this field, I know the industry, I'm the youngest kind of person at my level, therefore I'm God's gift kind of to the industry. And that lesson really kind of hit home, killed my ego completely, which is exactly what I needed it to do. And now it's, even when I'm talking to clients, it's very much a case of, is there something I can be missing here that you could perhaps be teaching me, whether it's just in my own delivery or how I kind of perceive the message, or how I deliver the message, or is it there's a certain situation or a circumstance I haven't noticed, which actually means my advice is absolutely useless for you personally, maybe.
Yeah. And did you find, since you've been a parent now 5 months, have you has it had more grit to it because you're a parent? You're like, wow, now it makes sense. Because you're still young. Me, 24, I'm still university, still going partying. Like, if you told me this thing about Jordan, I'm like, come on, like, I've got it figured out. But great for you at a young age to be able to dive into that. Because I was always into positive psychology back then, but I was going about it the wrong way. But yeah, I think Jordan Peterson he's a great thought leader for men, for who are dying and needing some guidance that way.
Oh, without a shadow of a doubt. Completely agree.
Yeah, definitely. Like, he gets quite emotional when he talks about that in some of his interviews, doesn't he? Because he's he's talking, he's like, oh, I'm helping all these people, all these men specifically, and they're coming up to him telling him that they've changed their life. And it's just down to the fact that they don't have any support. We don't have any support like that at the end of the day, not on a large scale until Jordan Peterson, really.
Yeah, it's so true. People just need so little encouragement to, they don't need much. Just, hey, man, you're doing a great job. I'm really proud of you. So I make sure I do that for my kids. But yeah, some people don't have the right role models or the support. And it's no wonder why, a lot of us get lost along the way.
Yeah, definitely. That's one of those things it's again, taking the little things for granted. It doesn't take much to say, oh, great job, really proud of you, good, whatever. But then, like, when you actually think about it, if somebody said that to you, that means the world. Like, that can make your entire day if you get one person saying, oh, good job, great job, really enjoyed it, whatever it might be.
I find it interesting, as you guys get older, if you read the same books again, they will have different meaning. I'll give you an example. Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now. When I read that book, I'm like, man, I'm enlightened. This is awesome. And then I thought I had it figured out. And then you go back into the real world, you go back to the habits, and I'm like, oh man, like, I want to get back to the now. And then your journey happens, there's obstacles, and you read it again as a parent or in your 30s. you're like, wow, this is a different interpretation for me now. So I love, like, if you have a good book, like that would be one of those that you would just read every decade or every 5 years. And there's wisdom there. And, to turn those works, those words into works, right?
Yeah.
On the topic of books, quickly, you mentioned one of the author of one of my favorite books ever earlier. You mentioned Bedros Keuilian, who Man Up, as Jordan knows, is absolutely one of my favorite books of all time.
Yeah.
I did a lot of kind of analyzing authors because I'm in the process, as I mentioned on every single episode, of writing my own book at the moment to go alongside a course. And the thing I've noticed with almost all of these kind of fantastic books that really kind of hit home, same with Jordan Peterson, for example, is there's this kind of redemption story in all of them, which is not just do this because it works, here's why it works. It's no, do this because it works, here's why it works. And also, here is where I missed. And when I started implementing it, here's what I achieved. So I was kind of curious, do you mind going into detail? You talked earlier about kind of your peaks and troughs kind of in your business. What are kind of the big moments that you would say are kind of the crossroads where had you gone one way, life would be completely different, and you thankfully took the right choice. And now you're smashing it, you're succeeding, and you're giving great value to the world.
Yeah, it's interesting about Bedros. I had the honor of introducing him in our mastermind last week, and I'm a big fan of Bedros. He spoke at our event. I love the guy. He's been through a lot, as you probably know. But it's like in those books, a smart man will learn their mistakes, but a wise person learns from the mistakes of others. So I had some mistakes I've made in the past. So, the reason I got into debt was I spent a year when I was lost, kind of didn't know what to do. Everyone's getting married. I spent a year in the casino every single day. And the first time I went there, I won big time. I think I won like 15 or 6, I don't know what it was, some amount. And I was hooked. So in a year of that. So then I knew I was heading in the wrong path, and I knew it, but then I didn't know how to get out of it. Once I came on the other side, it's like, those themes that you'll see in movies as well. It's Joseph Campbell writes this, the hero's journey, right? You get out of it and you learn from it. You're like, what did I need to learn from that experience? That experience was, I was using alcohol to fill the void in my life because everyone was progressing in their life. They moved out of their parents' house. I was still living with my parents that, back then I was like 29, right? So imagine that, I had, I never bought a house. Everyone's getting married. So I was trying to follow everyone else and comparing myself to my brothers as well. So my lesson there is, look, you're on your journey. Don't be someone else who you're not. And I evaluated in my life some of the happiest moments in my life, and they were who I truly was. I remember as a kid, I didn't have many friends, and I had a tape recorder and I would always talk to it. It was my thing. Every day I would just talk to it. I had this squeaky voice. I was just happy because I was being me, however awkward. I've got a big nose. I grew into the big ears and I was really skinny, but I was okay who I was. So then I look back in the themes of my life when things went wrong and it got stormy was when I wasn't living in alignment. My parents didn't drink. They raised me the right way. So anytime, when I went to that path, when I started to drink, I evaluated why I was doing it. I was trying to be someone I wasn't. And then, a bit of addiction happens. I have a, addictive personality. Sometimes it could be manic. And then I go to the casino. I spent a year there. Wow. Like while I was still working, right? Ended up getting, I probably blew 100K, but I was making decent money personal training. But then I got in a ton of debt because of the amount I spent. And then my dad had to bail me out. And so that point in my life, my mission was to pay my dad back before he passed away. And that was like, that's it. That's all I cared about. I needed to pay him back. I got to figure this out. There's got to be someone that can help me. I started getting back on track, and that's where Craig came in. And he came in at the perfect time because I already spent the money doing stupid things. I blew money. I ruined relationships. Now I've got a clean slate. I've got a family. I've got kids. Now I've got to support. I can't go back to the old Ron. So it's almost like, you've got the burning. I think Jordan Peterson talks about that. You just have to let things burn off the old way. So if something isn't working, it's what you haven't done that you have to do. So I took on my mission of, changing my life, not drinking. I'll have maybe wine once in a while, and just committing to the mission of, spending time with my kids, living in better alignment, and not spending time with people who don't serve me anymore. Because all the time I was drinking in the past was just to, entertain other people, right? And then you're hungover the next day, and then you wake up at noon, then it's not productive, and you just can't do that with kids. So yeah, it's learning from the past. And I think a lot, even my mentor told me, like, well, he mentions this in his stories as well, that one thing he wishes if you go back is not to drink as much. And a lot of people, when you self-reflect, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with drinking, but for me it's not, because for me it's not a good fit, because I can get addicted very easily, and it's fun. Like, that's why people do it. It's been around for centuries, right? But it's a coping mechanism, at least it was for me. So I got the underlying reason why I was coping with it. I got some, I do see cognitive behavioral therapy every month. I see a psychologist. That helps me become a better entrepreneur and a better parent and a dad. So something I would have never been open to back in the day. So yeah, realizing that life is fragile. We all have vices and we all have flaws, but try not to make the same mistakes. And when you have these themes come up, and I think even Jordan Peterson says, like, you can sit down on the side of your bed and say, what stupid thing are you doing that's absolutely going to wreck your life? And when I sat there, I was like, that's it. And I didn't know. So it's like, you got to get the gold, you've got to go after the dragon. And for me, the dragon was the addiction to the drinking and coping. So then I got the therapy, limiting, I'm always monitoring the alcohol. Like if I have too much, I'll talk to that with my psychologist and even Craig, because I don't want to, I don't think I was an alcoholic, but I think it was getting me in the wrong. I'm 41 now, and for people who continue to drink at that age, you can see what happens. Like, you don't age well with it. It's not a very healthy habit. And here I am, a personal trainer who could smash 6 double rye and Diet Cokes. Rye Ron was my nickname, right? So because I can still cope after that, golfing, right? It's not a good way to live, at least on where I was. So yeah, cleaned myself up, and just in this new journey now where I've had more money than ever, but it's probably the best time to have it, where I learned a lesson. So the money doesn't mean anything to me as much, versus if I was in this position 10 years ago, I would have been at the casino and I would have been homeless, honestly, because I just I needed to get my head together. I just needed to fix a lot of things, that a lot of it was self-imposed. So yeah, I don't compare myself to anyone else. I let other people live their lives, and I don't let, if someone isn't listening to what I'm saying, and I'm not going to tell it, that's like putting pearls before swine or something I've heard from Jordan Peterson. So I'm careful. I don't, if someone asks me for their advice, I'll tell that to them, but I don't, I'm most critical of myself, and I'm very accepting of other people. That's the thing. So I don't want to be critical of other people. So.
Makes a lot of sense, and it's obviously a fantastic thing that you've managed to almost pull yourself out of that, and now you're here where you are today. So well done for that.
Thank you. And I mean, I tell you, it's something that always, I don't want to go back, and sometimes it's like, man, well, let me just have this one drink, and then it's like, yeah, I'll just have one. That's it, because I know that if I slip, it could be a slippery slope. So yeah, having the right people in your life where you share that with, and you have your checks and balances. Because before I would just lie to myself, like, it's not a problem. Or the casino, hey, it's not a problem. I won 10, I just won 15K, right? But that was 6 months down the road. Well, I won that 15K. I would play roulette, the worst game you can play, right? You're going to lose money. And I got to the point where I didn't really care about the money anymore. I just wanted to hit, and if it didn't hit, that's okay. It doesn't matter. Money. And it's just, I was like a celebrity there. So people are giving me attention, right? They called me the Deuce Man. So I'm not surprised why people get addicted to it. Like now I feel bad for those people, because I know. And then, the people that are homeless, it's like, they're human too. It's not like they're bad people, like, because that could have easily been me, right? And I had the best circumstances. I ideally, very supportive family. My parents were, they're still together, right? So it's like, if I can mess up that bad with all that support, imagine someone who didn't have role models in their life. So that's why, when I see someone, I look at it differently. So if I see a homeless person, it's like, man, it's not like, oh, why is this guy homeless? He's lazy. It's like, man, this guy's just didn't have the support, right? So.
I get you completely. Those support systems are so important. So important, definitely. We've talked a lot about your past, and I've just got one last question from me, and that is, what are your plans for the future then?
Yeah, that's a great question. People always ask me now because they're like, well, you're doing calls for Craig and then you do, I will always have Lean Fit Healthy. I want to always have my brand. I really want to turn the dial on that. I want to be a better leader in my business. I have a virtual assistant. I have people helping me out, but I want to bring on an assistant coach, scale to the point where I'm working with 1,000 people every year, whether they're in my program, build out a course, continue to be part of Craig's organization, helping my students, get more freedom, make more impact. And I want to be a scratch golfer. Like I always need to have I need to have goals away from work, and golf is a very hard sport. And my handicap is, we're at like a 14 or 15 right now. So it's going to take me 15 years, but I'm committing to it. So that's going to be a big thing for me, just because I golf I'll practice every single day. So I've got the balance with the family. I still have my fitness business, but I want to keep carving out that time for me as well as my family. So not just work a lot. So
yeah, definitely. That's really, really good. I look forward to seeing what you do with it all.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I'm really proud of you, Jordan. Like I said, your work is really good. You guys are doing some great things. And I want to thank you for this opportunity to share my story. And I hope your audience maybe has one takeaway from it. Like I'm 41 now, and, regardless of what happened in the past, where your starting point is, you failed, we've all done that. But in the last 3 years, I've seen so much improvements in my life because it was growth. So you don't want to stay in stasis. That's the one thing. And I always want to get out of my comfort zone. So if I feel like I'm stalled, I've got to do something challenging. So I did it this year in golf. I changed my swing because I was plateauing with my golf. So I'm changing my swing. It's going to take me months to get back to it, but that's the only way to accelerate. So never stay in stasis, address your mental health, and spend as much time with the people you love, because, life's short.
Definitely. I know for a fact that our audience are going to get so much value from this podcast today, because I know for a fact that I have, and that's me, who's obviously already had the mentoring. I'm still getting tons of value, so I know for a fact our audience will as well. Harry, do you have any questions before we head off?
Very, very, very quick one. So you're not allowed to give any real detail or explanation. Just kind of give me a good answer, which is these kind of fad diets you hear about. Do any of them actually work? Vegan diet, carnivore diet, ketogenics, all this stuff. Yeah. Which one do I go with? What works?
Good question. They all work, but not for the reason that is purported. At the end of the day, you need to be in a caloric deficit. So I always say, eat paleo on Monday, then go vegan on Tuesday, and then go keto the other day. Essentially, people like to have hard rules. So they want to say, okay, I'm going to cut out the carbs. This makes sense. So then I can only eat this. I'm a big fan of time restricted eating, but you can eat whatever you'd like. So I go from 12 to 8, but it's nothing magical. It suits my lifestyle. I like to eat meat. Now I'm very plant-based. So I think at the end of the day, you have to look at, the ethical dilemma. If you want to eat meat, great, go ahead. Then I'm not going to judge you there. Like I eat a lot of meat. If you want to lose weight while still eating carbs, you can. You want to find something sustainable long-term. What you do today, you want to do 10 years from now. So for me, that flexibility works well. So I just manage my calories like I manage my finances. So at the end of the day, I just make sure I can work a lot more, obviously, to make more income, but if you end up working a lot, which is like exercising a lot, you're going to be probably spending money on, because you're not going to have time to cook yourself. So you're going to be spending a lot too. Same thing as if you're exercising a lot, you're probably going to have to eat a lot too, because you're going to be hungry. So eating in a way like you've never worked out, because when you do work out, it's probably not as hard as you think. And walk. If I had all my clients that get the best results, they walk for 30 minutes a day. The rules are just time restricted. They can only eat from this time to this time. And they figure out, do I want to eat 2 or 3 meals? And if they have kids, you want to eat the same thing. Like you can't be cooking different meals. It's just too hard to do, right? So something that's suitable. But yeah, going back to your question, all diets work, but because they get you in a deficit. So there's nothing magical, but whatever resonates, and the twists work because it's exciting. And my approach when I advertise and when I market is like, look, fat loss it's very simple, but it's not easy. So you have to play the long game. So when people work with me, it's a year commitment. So
fair enough. Brilliant answer. Thank you.
Any thoughts what you'll be going for then, Harry? What kind of fat diet are you thinking?
I like the idea of the intermittent fasting. That makes sense to me. So I'm going to give that a crack.
Yeah, I like to go from, honestly, I love coffee. So I can have coffee in the morning and I drink my water. I like to break my fast typically, depending on the day of the week. On Monday, it's like a Santa Fe wrap from a restaurant that I go to. It's essentially like beans. So there's no meat. Mondays are I go meatless just because I probably ate a lot of steak on the weekend. And it's got, so I'm getting my legumes in there and I put some hot sauce and cheese. And then I have Darryl bars. I love protein bars. And I have a cereal that are kid friendly. It's Magic Spoon. It's in the US, but it tastes like Fruit Loops, but it has the highest amount of protein and there's no sugar. So especially with cereal, there's a lot of sugar. So yeah, 12 to 8, and I'm okay if I'm hungry. Like people think because they feel hungry that they're starving. It's not. It's just your body's used to a certain interval. So I ride the wave. Like if I'm hungry, I know that at a certain time, my body's going to release the fat cells and I'm going to feel satiated. That's how it works. Because there is someone who didn't eat for a full year. I think if you look it up, this is back in the day. For 1 full year, he was under doctor supervision. I think he was 400 and something pounds. He still survived. You don't need food if you have enough fat. You need water more than that and certain vitamins. I'm not saying don't eat any food, but the idea of restricting the times you can eat to simplify your life in a way where you're not eating, you're busy when you're not eating, so you're not thinking about food. And then when you do eat, I eat a bigger meal because I want to have a big meal. So at night, I'm going to have that steak, right? Or on the weekend. So finding foods you enjoy, but prioritizing, fruits and vegetables. That's like all of them. If there's a diet that doesn't tell you, if that's the one thing, if they're saying fruits and vegetables are bad, then I'll just be very leery because most of them will agree that you need the nutrients, you need the roughage, you need the fiber. And an apple, I don't know about you, I've never ate more than an apple at one sitting. I'm full, like that's an apple, low calories because it's water, right? Versus if I drank the juice. So we got to go back to the old days when like my grandpa was very thin and he didn't count calories. He couldn't afford to eat 6 meals a day, right? Like some people try to do now because of the fads that come and go. So the more we know about something, I feel like there's so much paralysis now. If we would have left nutrition alone and we would have kept sugar versus aspartame and sucralose and all that, now we're just so confused because it's like we're not even eating real foods and, eating as whole food as possible. You're going to feel full on lower calories. So it's quality of calories are important. And usually the quality of the calorie will dictate the quantity you eat. So then you'll stay in a budget. It's very hard to overeat if you're eating relatively nutritiously, right? If you have an apple, then you have a salad before that steak versus, eat the steak and potatoes. If I have that potato in there, I'm going to eat multiple potatoes. So that's why I have the salad first, eat slow, cut my food, and each meal should ideally be 30 minutes, right? Most people, they're on their phone or they're on the computer while they're eating. So if they get their time back and get their lunches back, you'll be amazed and chew your food. Those simple things that it's not exciting. It's not sexy to teach someone that. They're like, I'm paying you to tell me to eat slow. I'm like, well, you're not doing it. Look how hard it is. When you tell someone to eat slow, it's a very difficult task. So
yeah, that's definitely something I struggle with. I used to at school, because I did art at my GCSE when I was 13, 14 years old.
Yeah.
I would spend all my lunches doing my artwork, and then I would have to go out and I'd have 5 minutes for lunch. So then I'd have to queue up, get my food, and then eat it within 5 minutes. So I'm horrendous at eating slowly.
Yeah, it's tough. So I would say eat in a way where you can go for a light jog after or a walk. And I'm not a big jogger, but just that will make sense when people are like, okay, I get it. So I'll eat to this point, I can still do some form of low level activity. So
Yeah. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Cheers.
Awesome.
Okay, cool. Well, if nobody else has any questions, then I will sign off for this episode today. Thank you so much, Ron, for coming on. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. As I said before, I know that our viewers are going to get tons and tons of value again for coming on, and we'll talk to you again soon, hopefully.
Thank you so much, Harry. It's nice to meet you, my man.
Nice to meet you.
If you have any questions about parenting, I'm always here. And Jordan, keep up the good work, man. I'm really proud of you.
Will do. Thank you so much, Ron.
Okay. Take care, gentlemen.
Have a great day. Thank you.
Bye.